I'm impressed. Thank you all for showing up, coming out tonight. Mike, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Yes, absolutely.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Amen.
Can I borrow your pen?
Absolutely.
Before we start, can I ask who's filming, taping?
NBC 10 Boston.
What is it?
NBC 10 Boston.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we have an approval of the minutes of September 17th, please?
I'll approve the minutes of September 10th, 2024.
September 17th.
2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank you, Mike.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And I abstain, I was not there. Thank you. Before we start with new public business, I had an email this afternoon from a mother of 2 children on Hunt Street. And I did respond to her, and I'd like to read my response, because it's also a response for the folks in the room at this moment and the community at large. Ma'am, I am troubled that a citizen needs to express their concerns about the safety of their children. The action of a group of juveniles, as reported to me, is most concerning. Trust that we, this board, will take this infraction seriously and will express to our police department to take any and all necessary steps to curtail these outlandish incidents. Signed, Daniel Bennett, Chair of the Board of Selectmen. And with that, I'll open it up to new public business, and let's see how we can control this. We'll start on the left. Anybody want to speak against the wall? Thank you. In the back?
I got a question.
I'll get to you in a minute. Thank you. Anyone on this side wish to speak? Please, go to the microphone, introduce yourself.
Good evening. Rick Betancourt, former town meeting and resident at 13 Bowden, but also a previous business owner in downtown Danvers for 15 years. So I'm not going to talk about the unfortunate issue that happened, but I want to talk about the lack of proactiveness that I think the board and the leadership of this town clearly exhibited as a result. When I first came to this town in '05, we had a downtown improvement committee. That committee met on a monthly basis. We had a liaison officer from the board. We also had a liaison from the Danvers Police Department. Mr. Bartha comes in, and that committee was immediately terminated within about a year. But we were able to talk on issues downtown, not just the parade of lights, or not just having the events that we would decorate our businesses downtown. It was more than that. We would convey issues, we would convey concerns. If we saw something, we were actively involved on a monthly basis communicating with you and the Danvers Police Department. That's been gone for 12, 13 years now, 12, whatever the time is. You can look it up, 10 years. We've had nothing down there. And as a resident of Danvers and a business owner down there, I've seen firsthand the lack of leadership here. We have no more downtown improvement committee. That was killed by Mr. Bartha. The town then decides to go ahead and put a pop-up park coming out of a COVID, one of the largest economic crises we've ever seen. And friends of mine that own businesses downtown lost 27% of their business that year because of this ridiculous pop-up park. And the reason why I mentioned the pop-up park is because I'm a firm believer that was one of the things that empowered these kids to act and behave the way that they have. Because all that was ever there were kids. All that was ever there were children on those running their bikes around all over. Tracy and Chris Salvo would have to go out there and clean that up because nobody else did. The Hornets were out there. I ate lunch there every day, pretty much almost every day while I was a business owner. So what we're talking about, I understand I have 2 minutes. What you are all tasked to do is find a way to not be reactive, because this is what this is. This is a reactive meeting. This is not a proactive meeting. Because, and Chris would come into my office on a regular basis when I was downtown getting pens, swag, koozies, The kid is one of the nicest human beings of all time. And because of a lack of leadership, now we're going to be reactive and have this town meeting, this meeting, and talk about what do we do moving forward and how we're going to stop these children from getting out of control. You missed your opportunity, and now you got to find a way to move forward and fix what's going on. Because as a resident and as a business owner down there, I see it. I'm disgusted at the way that downtown Danvers is starting to look. That's the reason why I moved my business out of Danvers, and now I'm in Middleton, a little bit more business friendly. So I really hope that this board, now moving forward, and I don't mean this in any way, shape, or form to Select Board Member Bernard or Doc or Mr. Bean, Select Board Member Bean. It was Dave Mills, Dan, Trask, and Clark. There was other things that could have been done back then, and they were not done. So I hope you guys find a way now to work much more closely with our police department to stop these kids from terrorizing. I almost hit one of them the other day. Came out right in the middle of the street, driving his bike, no big deal, could care less, came right at my F-150. I don't want to make you a hood ornament kid, but you know, these kids are not being educated to stop doing this. So I hope Danvers PD, the select board, our leadership can find a way to curtail it and stop it. Because it shouldn't have happened to that human being right there. He's one of the nicest people to ever walk the planet Earth. So I hope you guys find it in your hearts to find a way to create policies, procedures, or at least enforcement downtown to stop these kids from doing that. Thank you.
John, you wanted to speak?
Yeah, I was just curious what she wrote to you, so your response, oh, sorry.
I don't know that I have her permission to read what she
That's fair,
wrote.
then
I'm
that's-
sorry.
Then I'll
Okay.
abstain from that comment.
But it obviously was about
It was.
the safety of her kids and how she respects their behavior, not some others, pretty much. Thank you. Anyone in the sitting down wants to speak? Please, ma'am, introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Lauren Steves. I live at 5 Hood Terrace in Danvers. To kind of tag off what he's talking about as far as community policing and being aware of everything that's going on, I live right behind the access road to 128. And I cannot tell you how many times I have looked out my kitchen window and seen a cop sitting on that hill, hidden from everyone, sitting there for hours. Why? When we have, and on top of that, these articles about what happened to Chris, the incident, it wasn't an incident, he got attacked. And I don't care if they were children. That is not okay. But the police just sitting there, not driving around and having eyes on things in this town is a huge problem. My tax dollars are sitting there waiting for what? Waiting for a call for an accident? I mean, I'm right at the intersection of the lights of 128. You know how many people blow the red light, go over the double yellow line, trying to get into the 2 lanes? They're not even doing traffic policing at that point. There needs to be more active community policing in this town to stop things like this that should have never happened in the first place. Thank you.
Anyone else on the right wish to speak? In the back?
Matthew Aquaro, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 1. Issue I had was a little different. I watched one of these meetings a few meetings ago on September 5th, and since then, this is the first opportunity that I've had to be able to come in. After that meeting, and I watched it, I was appalled at the way that meeting was run. And I spoke with other town meeting members, and I spoke with residents, both in Precinct 1 and the other precincts. The fact that 3 of the board members were reprimanded in front of each other, as well as the audience and on the DCAT, is unbelievable. That should have been done previous to the meeting, in a back office, in a one-on-one, completely separate together. The fact that the chair also mentioned, quote unquote, your mistake is why you won't be the next chair at the next meeting. And then bringing up the numerous times throughout the meeting, the fact that it was disrespected. The chair was disrespected by 3 of its members. And that came up numerous times, doing nothing but making the whole situation very uncomfortable for at least 3 of the members, and who knows whoever was sitting here, okay? Any good leader knows that each one of those people should have been spoken to alone. You don't do that in front of colleagues. You don't do it in front of microphones. You don't do that in front of cameras. That's wrong, okay? The second concern I had was the manner in which later in that meeting, the chair said, I need a monetary public donation. That's extortion. That's a bribe, okay? You can call it what you want. But to do that, that tainted our name. That tainted our process. That tainted our town. That tainted every department in this town. Every employee, every resident, okay? Business owners that have moved out because of things like that. The people that want to buy a home and come into this town because there are things such as good schools, good businesses, good downtowns, okay? It's kind of going away. And when contractors hear that, when developers hear that, when homeowners hear that, investors hear that, they're going to think twice. So, as far as I'm concerned, that's what's disrespectful. And as far as I'm concerned, the chair, Dan, starting with your own board members, you owe them an apology as well as the whole town.
Anyone else over on this side wish to speak? Yes, in the back. Right, no, you.
What's he talking about anyway?
My name is Kathy Carboni. I'm a new resident to Danvers. I moved here last September. And the first week I was here, a bunch of kids rode by on a bike, didn't think anything of it, popping wheelies. And they yelled out something to me that they were going to buy my house someday, which was gave me a little bit of an uneasy feeling. But now I see the same kids riding around my neighborhood, hooting and hollering. They cross traffic. They don't pay attention. And I just want to say, I don't know much about the town or the town politics, but they run amok. And it doesn't seem they're worried about anything. And it gives me an uneasy feeling because I live alone. So I just wanted to say I'm new. I don't know anything about anything, but these kids are a problem, and they're not worried about repercussions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone on this side? Yes, sir? I'll come back to you. Yep, you'll be next.
Hi. Good, how are you?
Hello, Al Sweeney, 3 Bridlespur Lane here in Danvers. I'm a retired law enforcement officer of many decades, and I'm fully supportive of our public safety personnel, both here and across the country. I don't see any representatives here from the police department, but I've spoken with the chief a number of times. The criminal assault the other day on a Danvers citizen is shameful and disappointing. We have an obligation and an opportunity to intervene before someone else is injured or harmed, and before what could be a group of juveniles end up with criminal records. This requires a full strategy for identifying specific individuals who seem to be well known in the area and have been captured on cameras and imposing fines or penalties that apply. It also requires a cooperative and concerted effort on the part of parents, police, schools, and clergy, business community, and all of us to put a stop to it. We as a community are better than this, and it has risen to an alarming level as evidenced tonight. I hope we can work together to end these incidents now And waiting for it to go away is not an option, and ignoring it is no longer an option. I agree with the business community, the first speaker. We could do it together. I've seen it done in many communities across the country that I worked with. We just need to bring everybody together and get it done instead of ignoring it. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, hold the microphone. Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm Chris Anderson. I've been living in been living in the Danvers for a long time. Guys, guys, I let you guys know, all you guys, I want you guys know, I was really, really afraid of them always, and I was in my life, I was scared to death of them, those kids. I want you guys know that to my heart. I'm not gonna cry. It just breaks my heart every day, and I can't sleep at nighttime. I'm sorry, guys, and it's hard. Can you guys do more for me, please? That's all I got.
Thank you. Anyone else over on this side? This in the back?
Good evening, Melissa Gray, 29 Coolidge Road. Late in August, I was harassed downtown for stopping these children on bikes, harassing a disabled man between Western Cycle and Domino's. They were spitting at him, swearing at him, and trying to knock him over. If he had fallen, he would never have gotten up. I proceeded to speak to the boys and ask them to stop, leave him alone, don't do anything. I continued on to the rail trail as I do every day, and I was spit at, called names, rocks thrown up in my face, and I continued to walk. I called the Danvers Police Department, and they said nothing. They didn't. I asked if they could take a description and go talk to the boys. Nothing. They just said, okay, what is your name? Gave them my name. I said, are you going to try to find them? And they said no. I finished, got home, got in my car with my daughter, drove down through Woodvale and found the group on Princeton. Unfortunately, she was not able to identify all of them because I would have gone to their house. I just feel it's very disheartening that this happened to this gentleman because maybe if it's the same group of boys, it could have been stopped if the police had gone to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else over here? Yes, sir.
Lois McKenzie, Harbor Street, Precinct 3, town meeting member. Last year I took the, town citizen class? Academy, thank you. And at the night that we were at the police department, I asked Jamie Lovell, why can you not take these kids' bikes? He stood there and he told me, you can't do that. The laws have changed. You cannot confiscate kids' bikes and call the parents and tell them to come down. I said, I don't believe that's true. I had just had a long conversation with a Peabody police officer and Beverly officers. I believe, I don't remember where that was. I think it was at Endicott Park. Doesn't matter. The fact was, they both said to me, that is their plan in both those cities. So if Beverly and Peabody can do it, who is tying their hands in Danvers is what I want to know. Is it Jamie? And if it's Jamie, Jamie needs to resign.
Anyone else? I have a question. Yes, you may.
My name is Kathy Carboni. I'm in Precinct 1. I live on Conant Street. And I'd like to know, is our police department fully staffed?
I don't believe they are, but I'd ask the town manager.
We are as close to fully staffed as we have been in years. They are fully funded, and they acquire officers as fast as we can get them through academy.
Well, there was a hit and run in front of my house a couple of weeks ago. It took a good, I would say, at least 6 minutes for the police to arrive. while somebody was laying on the ground, which made me think, I don't even know where the police department is, but I thought that was a long time to show up. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Used to be able to see out the side of my head, but not now.
Good evening, Nicola Dresser, downtown Danvers. On multiple occasions, my 9-year-old daughter and I have been catcalled, spoken to in a vulgar manner, harassed from our doorsteps by the same kids that occupy downtown Danvers. We had a trespassing incident just a few weeks ago. Upon the first call to the police, the responding officer told us nothing could be done. Only after I called the school and asked to speak to a resource officer was I made aware that that is not true and that actions could be taken against children who were looking to trespass and potentially vandalize private property. What training is being done to responding officers to address these issues as they happen and reassure the town community that these issues are being handled as quickly, professionally, and attentively as they should be? That's my question for the board and for town and for the police this evening.
Nice job.
Thank you. Please.
Hi, I'm Adrienne Ritchie. I live on 19 Beaver Park Road. I wasn't planning on speaking, but thank you. You've all inspired me. I have a son at St. Mary's in Danvers. I have a son at Kids at Play. Drive them to school every day, pick them up every day. 2 weeks ago, I was driving down the hill by the YMCA. There were 4 kids in the road, part of my language, fucking with me, coming in and out in front of my car. And instead of swerving my car and risking hitting a tree on the side of my 2.5-year-old's car seat, I continued at the speed limit, basically playing chicken with these kids. They did not move out of the road. I eventually had to slam on my brakes. 2 cars behind me had to slam on their brakes. If I had hit these kids, the police would be there in 30 seconds. 100%. If I had called the cops on these kids, the cops would have never arrived. This is messed up.
Anyone else? Please.
Greg Maynard, Brentwood Circle. So my belief is these kids, these individuals, have been known to the town for quite some time because I personally have called on them riding up and down the school street in a motorcycle in the middle of the street, no helmets on, no shoes on, popping wheelies, cutting in and out of traffic. Called the police. Police told me, yeah, they're known to us, we'll send somebody down. Right? You might not be able to take their bicycles away from them, but the motorcycle, you can take that away because I know Mike did it to me many years ago. These kids, there's no repercussions for these kids, right? And no repercussions, yeah, and the parents. But I don't blame the police department. I blame the management, right? And good luck to Lexington, because I'll be so happy to see you leave. A lot of us are. And I've had one other question to ask the town. Is there any kind of like no compete when you sign a contract for a town manager? And if there is, shame on you for not putting it in there. You gave the guy a raise, you gave him an extension, and he jumped ship. That's not the way to read employing somebody.
Amen.
Anyone else? New business? Thank you for your comments. It's obvious that we have some work to do. We're going to ask, Steve's on his way out. Our next meeting, he will not be here. But I think we would like to hear from the chief an update on what they can do better. Let's stay in control, please. Our next, I don't know, Mike, anything you might want to offer?
Yes, I'm old school, and I used to get in trouble for being old school, but I think we do have to maintain order. Public safety has to be number one. If we're not going to take care of, one person, I guess we're not taking care of any. So I do look at the police department that I used to work for, and I do expect them to do their job. At the end of August, I drafted a proposal. It's kind of a reverse community policing. When we did community policing years ago, it was about officers to get out of the car, walk around, get to know people, because we lost that when they took walking beats away. My proposal was reverse. We asked the businesses, we asked the public, we ask every single town worker to report any incidents they see down in the center of town on High Street in that area. We build a paper trail against the perpetrators. We are all engaged. We support the police officers on the street. Today is different than when I was a police officer. You really can get in a lot of trouble pretty quickly. Whereas years ago, you threw out an F-bomb, you get away with it, but not anymore. So it's different, and we have to support that officer on the street, and we have to demand that the chief does his job.
Thank you, Mike.
Paul Pollack, Precinct 4. I'm a member of FinCom, and I'm a member of the Human Rights and Inclusion Committee. What I don't like is when people want to get together, accuse kids, which they have a problem. They have a problem. Then come in and act sometimes just like the kids. I don't believe that we have to stand here tonight and accuse the town manager of this and accuse select board members of this. To me, it's a little bit like ganging up, and it's very easy. It's very easy. I happened to work with Steve Bartha for a number of years in my role, and I want to tell you something, that I've never seen someone more dedicated to this town and doing the right thing. And you may not agree with everything he does. Be quiet.
Don't look at me, Paul. It wasn't me, all
I'm
right?
not looking at you.
Yeah, you're looking right at me. Don't look at me, okay?
First of all, you're not worth looking at.
Paul, please, address this
I'm
board.
not going to sit
Look him
down.
in the eyes when you're saying.
Don't talk to me when I'm up
Excuse
there, and
me.
I expected this.
Paul, address this board.
Yes, sir.
Not the audience.
Yes, sir. I am not going to stand here and say that everything that's been done in this town has been perfect, because I know that's not true. But I'm not going to also stand here and say you can just gang up on someone. I don't believe that's the right approach. I believe that everybody has an opportunity to talk. You've been listened to, and I appreciate the same consideration. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Anybody else? Ma'am, hold on one second. You've been up twice already. Just wait. I want to make sure everybody else has spoken. If nobody else wishes to speak, now you may.
Kathy, Conant Street. That is what's wrong in this town, from what I've seen, is the name calling and everybody blaming everybody else. These are just adolescents. Has anybody ever tried to approach this besides arresting them or punishing them? Have the guidance counselors been told? Has anybody chatted with the parents? Maybe we could approach it in a different way and not punish these kids. Maybe they just need to be talked to. I don't know. I know they were around my house, and I know they ride bikes, and I know they hoot and holler, and I know they do wheelies in traffic. I've seen all that. But they're kids. Maybe there's a way to get them before they go off the rails.
Folks.
All right. I don't think it's any one particular person's fault, but it seems like a big issue, and I'm a little rattled by it. Thank you.
It is a big issue. Thank you all for speaking. Yes, you may.
Come this way, it's easier.
My name is Antoinette Anderson. I live at 10 Salvatore Circle. These kids are a goddamn bunch of hoodlums. I don't care what anybody thinks. They have psychopathic tendencies, and pardon my language. They're not normal children or adolescents. Normal children and adolescents do not behave in that manner. I've had many encounters with them. Driving my car, having them give me the finger, yelling at me, and I am sick to death of it. And then when they go and damn near kill my son, who wouldn't hurt a flea, I have had it right up to here. And I want something done about them. And trust me when I tell you, I've already hired a lawyer, and I will sue them for every damn penny they will ever make.
Selectman Bernard?
All right, so thank you, everybody, for coming. Ducky, we're sorry, and I'm sorry. This never should have happened, okay? We've been on a welcoming committee to make everybody feel welcome in Danvers and safe. Everybody should feel safe and welcome in our community. All right, we're very sorry. I'm not law enforcement. I'm not a lawyer. But we're here to listen to what the residents have to say here in Danvers. Okay, I'd like the chief of police to come before us with a report. I like what Rick Betancourt says, because I participated in the downtown committee. We've talked about this, Dan, about having that back in town. I want the police to patrol the areas like Select Board Member Bean said, walk the town. I'd like the chief of police to go in and visit the businesses and talk to the residents. These kids cannot do what they've been doing to people. I've seen them myself, not as much, but I've heard from all you residents, and I'm very sorry, Ducky. You know, I'm very, very sorry. But we need to take control. Us as a board, the town manager is leaving, okay? We wish him well, but we want a new town manager that's going to be invested in this community and the residents to continue making this community safe and welcoming. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody want to speak over here? Where'd she go? She switched places.
Got into it at 11 o'clock.
I guess they got another.
And 7 right now.
7 and 11?
Nice.
Nice.
Good job. Did you get my good side?
Hi, my name is Laura Powell, and I live on 29 Ash Street here in Danvers. I have been harassed for the last 3 summers by different groups of kids. I've been sworn at, I've been pushed into the street. They tried to grab my elderly dog and drag him into traffic. And I have a 26-year-old autistic son. He's very high functioning. He's very social. You know, and he was just walking in the square, minding his own business, and they started chasing him and screaming, "Why are you so fat?" Blah, 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 and just throwing rocks at him and doing whatever they could to make it miserable. Luckily, Adam is my son, and he is able to just keep walking, la-di-da, like nothing's bothering him, you know? So he walked away, walked all the way home, and then he tells me, I'm like, oh, we should probably call the police. He goes, don't bother, they're not going to do anything. And I said, well, why do you think that? And he says, remember when I was in high school and kids were complaining about me, thinking these girls think I'm stalking them. and all this. And he said, they did plenty to me, you know, because I have special needs. But, you know, these other kids, they just get away with everything. Not that what totally he was saying made sense, but he doesn't have a lot of faith himself, you know, in the town, which is a shame. So I guess that's all I have to say about that. But the first time I was harassed a couple of years ago, I did call the police, and they said, oh, there's nothing we can do. They're young kids. They're just kids. Well, these kids also, I heard, threw a brick through somebody's window this past 4th of July, and the cops said, oh, that's just shenanigans, or who, you know, oh, that's just kids fooling around and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, that's about it. So, and they know an awful lot more for a 13-year-old than some of these kids. Are very sexual, very provocative. I saw them go up to an elderly lady in CVS, and I won't even say what they said because this is going to be filmed. But, and then they proceeded to pull the cards out of her hand and throw them on the ground and run away laughing. So, and I spoke right up to them. I didn't care, you know. So go ahead and hit me because I'll sue you, you know. So anyway, it's similar to the incidents at McDonald's too last year. So that's all. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim?
Jim Morose, town meeting member, precinct 3. I just hope that in this report, in an investigation that we're doing, that we list all the issues that have been reported. Residents have said they've called the police and no action was taken. And so I'd like to make sure that those records are intact, and when we do the investigation, that there's a list of all this has been going on for 3 years at least that I've heard these things from kids. She just mentioned the yelling into the McDonald's and yelling into other businesses and all the things. This is not, people have been warning us about this for years and trying to, you know, get some action so what happened to Ducky wouldn't happen, but it happened because we didn't take action. And that report better be complete. I'll be looking for it. Thank you.
So, Chris, I know everybody calls you Ducky, but your given name is Chris. And I apologize to you for what happened. I've seen you over the years riding by. You're always friendly. You always have a nice wave. Sorry that it happened to you. Unfortunately, it can probably happen to somebody else as well. And certainly, we've heard to... So,
How about stopping it?
well, all right, let's stay in control, please. And my apologies to Chris and his mother for having to come out tonight. I appreciate everybody coming. There was a common thread here that we call and we get no response from the police. That's very obvious. I will ask that the interim town manager ask the police chief to come before us next month. I don't know if it'll be the 7th or the next meeting, to talk to us and tell us what he plans to do and how he's going to solve this problem.
After those kids.
Those kids have a problem and they need to be dealt with. But thank you all for coming tonight. Well, the chief's aware of it, and but I can't bring him before us until we meet.
Mr. Chairman?
That's a good question.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
may I say something?
Yes.
So to suggest that the chief is not aware of or attentive to this is false. I've been in contact with him since the incident occurred. He and his officers are investigating. They are talking to suspects. They are talking to witnesses. They are working hand in hand with the district attorney. If and when charges are warranted, they will be pressed. The chief is also not unaware of all of the issues that have been raised. I haven't personally had a conversation with the chief about the impoundment of bikes, but you can impound a bike. You can take it for up to 2 weeks. There has to be a traffic violation to do so, which is often the complicating factor because you're not allowed to ride a bike on the sidewalk. So if you're in the street, there has to be an infraction that you can document in order to take the bike. What I would suggest, Mr. Chairman, is that Mr. Lovell, who would be more than happy to come before this board, but I don't want anybody to think that there is inaction between now and the next board meeting. But in order for the chief to be able to respond to some of the concerns that have been raised, he needs to be invited to this meeting, and he'd be happy to do so. As of this morning, he was talking to roll call about directed patrol. You can believe that the entire police department is acutely aware of what happened and is very concerned about what happened, and will do what they can within the law to keep people safe. They will not leave the law to keep people safe, and I want to be super clear about that. We have a police department that is working around the clock to keep people safe, and Jamie Lovell will be happy to stand at that microphone and answer all the questions folks have about responses to phone calls, follow-up investigations to complaints that were filed. But I think we owe it to Mr. Lovell to give him an opportunity and come and respond to some of what has been shared.
Were they invited to this meeting?
No.
Why not?
Mr. Lovell is at a Boy Scout meeting tonight, leading his son's Boy Scout meeting. I have been in contact with the chief all day, and I suggested that he attend his son's Boy Scout meeting tonight. He will be happy to come before this board and answer any and all of your questions.
All right, can I just say a couple more things?
Yes.
I spent an hour and a half today with two detectives and the officer responded. And anytime I spoke, they kept me updated. They have assured me that they are investigating. They took him and me on our car and we drove around to where all this started and then down behind the middle school where it ended. So they have been extremely responsive to us. And have, I said that the news has contacted me. BZ called me. BZ came to my damn door today. Channel 7 came to my door today. And I have no comments at all to make any news on it because I don't want that to have any influence on what the police department is doing. But I was very impressed with them today, as I have been in the past, when I had a couple of other issues. And, as far as I'm concerned, they're trying to do what they need to do within the scope of the law. And I also go online, I look up stuff, I know that it's a hate crime against him or against developmental disabilities. And I have hired a lawyer, or hope to hire a lawyer, I haven't spoken to him yet, that deals with these kinds of cases. And I would hope that these punks will be arrested and, thrown in jail or wherever they send these kids for a very long time for impeachment. And the other thing people don't understand is my husband has dementia. So not only am I dealing with this, I'm dealing with the other as well.
Okay. That sums it up. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I?
Yes, you may.
Well, I just want to thank you for sharing your concerns. I have a mix of emotions. I'm sad and angry. And I want to express my outrage regarding the situation, and I'm sorry, Ducky. This matter have gone on too long, and it just has to stop. Our children deserve to feel safe, so do we in our neighborhood. And no one should be worried when they walk the street. That is not acceptable. We need to come together as a community to address these issues immediately. There's a difference between kids being kids and being criminals. I mean, there's a difference. We can't just say kids are kids. There's a difference between being a child and criminality, and I think we have to take it seriously, and I will support whatever this board needs to do to make that happen. but just rest assured that you are being heard. You did not speak in dead ears. And I hope that you hold us accountable to the limit of what we can do to make sure that this change and it doesn't happen again. So we hear you. I don't want to speak for the board. I hear you. I take this seriously, and we definitely have to and can do better. But thank you so much for bringing this concern. And Chris, again, I apologize. Thank you.
David, did you want to say anything?
Dee said it very well, as did my other board members. Thank you for being here and for being a mother.
Mike, you had something to offer?
I didn't know if it's possible, town manager, maybe you could answer this for me. I know we have 4 resource officers that work the schools. Is it possible, and you don't have to answer now, but could they come down the square and in the areas after school? They would know the kids. They could help identify as well as help the patrol maybe calm this thing down and get a hold of the people that are doing these things.
It's a good idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
Board members all set? Thank you. Thank you all.
All right.
Board members, I'd like permission to take number 3 out of order and move it to number 6, if that's agreeable.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Idiots like that saying boards will be bored.
So late.
The guy with the flannel's an asshole.
It was okay.
Who is that fellow, do you know, with the blue sweatshirt and the glasses who was right there? Is he the guy that owns the cigar store?
Oh, I don't know. He was here, yeah, but there was a few of them that had the same clothes on. But yeah, he was here.
The cigar store
Yeah,
guy?
yeah, yeah.
David, will you read the proclamation?
Sure, Dan.
Thank you.
Do you have it?
Thank you.
Yep, there you go.
Oh, the senior center.
Yep.
Sure.
All right. We'll wait a second. Okay. So we're going to take, the board will issue a proclamation in honor of Danvers Senior Center's 25th anniversary. Select Board Member Mills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is our proclamation from the board today in honor of the 25th anniversary of our Danvers Senior Center. Whereas in 1997, working with a town moderator-appointed committee, Danvers began to search for appropriate parcels on which to place a new senior center, replacing the facility across the street at 12 Sylvan Street. And whereas the committee met almost weekly to ensure that a new location would provide all of the services currently available to the town's growing senior population. And whereas several parcels, including the Holton Richmond Building on Conant Street, the Williams School on Elliott Street, and the Bessie Putnam Homestead on Peabody Avenue were considered, and whereas the Gates property on Stone Street was deemed to meet and exceed previously established criteria with open space, beautiful nature walks, and an intermittent brook for passive recreation. And whereas in 1999, construction was completed on today's much-loved, much-visited, nationally accredited Danvers Senior Center, a place for residents to meet, dine, socialize, and engage in various activities. We, therefore, the Select Board, do hereby proclaim that this day, October 24, 2024, is in recognition of the Danvers Senior Center's 25th anniversary, signed by the chair and the members of the board. Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, David. And I would like to extend an invitation to everybody on the 24th Thursday from 3 to 6 for an open house at the senior center. There will be some food, some music, some raffle baskets, and we hope you come by and say hello and meet our new director, Matt Mitchell. Thank you. The board will vote to accept a gift from Friends of Endicott Park in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A. Mr. Chairman, is there someone here to speak to that?
I believe Bill or Lois wanted to speak to that.
Please.
We do have representatives in the audience, Mr.
Good.
Chairman.
Hello, my name is Bill McKenzie,
Welcome.
Harbor Street, Danvers. In the past, you know all about Endicott Park. The Friends of Endicott Park is fundraising to take care of all the animals, the buildings, and help the town where there's shortfall for what we do over there. We decided to take on the rebuilding of the corn crib. The corn crib was designed years and years ago to take the corn out of the field, sit there and dry. We don't do that anymore, obviously. So what our proposal is to take the corn crib, tighten it up a little bit so that we could purchase abundance of hay, because right now we buy very little at a time, and it costs a lot more than buying a lot at a time. So we're going to store the hay in there for our animals. So we're going to we fundraised, and we're going to donate $30,000 towards this project. So we're just here to get permission.
Thank you. Anyone else want to offer any comments on this project? Any questions from members of the board? Dee?
No questions, thank you.
Maureen?
Thank you for what you do. I love Endicott Park.
Yeah, it's a gem.
It's a gem. It's a hidden gem. We're lucky to have it. I know you and Lois do an awful lot of work there.
Well, we have a
good group.
A good group.
Good group,
Yes, we
yep.
do.
The Eagle Scouts and everything, too, and
Yeah, we
the
take
Boy
all the help we can
Scouts.
get.
Yep, and let's take care of Rosie. She looks like she's been under that blanket a lot
Yeah.
lately, you know? She doesn't like to be cold, yeah. But thank you very much,
Yeah.
and what a generous gift this is, you know.
Well, that's why we fundraise.
Yep, thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, thank you guys for doing what you do. If I ever need a fundraiser, I'm going to look at you. It's incredible the amount of money
Hope
that's
you
been
have a horse and a cow.
No, I think you're doing a great job, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mike.
David?
Thank you. Thank you, Bill, for all of your effort, not just for this particular portion of the project, for everything that you have devoted from your life to Endicott Park.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
What's the will of the board?
I say we vote to accept the gift from the Friends of Endicott Park in accordance with MGL Chapter 44, Section 53A. Mr. Chairman.
And perhaps send a letter to
Send a
the
letter,
Friends?
thank
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Bill and Lois, for all the work you do. It's really not a hidden gem.
I know,
It's
no,
easy
it's
to
not even-
find.
I know. I'll
Thank
tell
you very much.
Yeah, it's really, the amount of people that go there,
Oh, I know.
really good. We want to keep it a hidden gem.
Okay, is Falcon Fest here? Yes, oh, there you are. The board will consider a request by Danvers Falcon Fest in collaboration with the town in connection with the following events. Holiday tree lighting on December 7th, no rain date. Winter bonfire on January 11th, rain date January 12th. And downtown rewind on June 24th, rain date June 26th. Please, oh, you're already there. Thank you. Introduce yourself and speak on.
Hi, I'm David Pabish, Secretary of the Board of Danvers Falcon Fest.
Welcome, David.
Jocelyn Marchand. I am the events coordinator for Danvers.
Welcome, Jocelyn. Thank you. So bring us up to date briefly, and if the board has any questions, we'll ask.
So the first event that we're seeking approval for is our partnership with the town for the annual tree lighting. We're seeking approval for the street closure and the block party for that event. Did you want to add any color as to what we're adding to that?
Last year, we did something kind of new with the tree lighting. We added in a volunteer parade of floats. I believe we had 8 vehicles lining the street in front of the fire truck with Santa on it, and it was really well received. Everybody was really excited to see it come through, and we're hoping to sort of expand on that just a bit this year, maybe bring some businesses into it, and have some more volunteers bring light to our special annual downtown tree lighting.
Good.
And so the second approval we're looking for was for the bonfire. So we need the select board to approve for the fire department to grant us a ceremonial bonfire permit. And we have already.
They done that? Have you issued a permit yet, Chief?
The chief is here to request that tonight.
That's why
He's
I'm
going to
here.
request it.
Brian Barry, Fire Chief. So no, in order for the bonfire to happen, the select board has to authorize the fire department to issue that permit. We would be waiting on approval by the board, and then we would do so.
Okay, good. Thank you for clarification.
And for that bonfire event, we've already gotten permission from the rec department for the use of the space at Plains Park. And bonfire, so obviously there's a big bonfire, but we'll have DJ, food, probably some local artisans.
It's like another sort of winter time coming together. It's really a celebration of that holiday spirit coming out of your house in the winter time to kind of warm up with your community, get the community together when it's kind of a hard time for some people to kind of get outdoors and get together, and it's a good reason to kind of bring the community together and kind of have pride in you know, being part of this town. So it's a dedication to a new year, really. We take those Christmas trees and we put them to flames, and we kind of light up the night and warm each other's spirits, if you will.
Good.
And then the final approval we're looking for, so it's for Downtown Rewind, and that is another street closure block party approval that we're seeking. And will be just the same we did this year, closing the square from Locust to Elm. I think it went off pretty well this year.
Having the larger space definitely gave to a little bit more of being able to sort of wander around with your family without feeling, you know, that panic that you can kind of get when you're in a big crowd, having more space to do so you can enjoy the whole street with all of the businesses. A lot of people were dedicating their evening to putting something special out, you know, outside their doors, bringing people into their business, people getting to know their downtown again, and really enjoying the space. So it's sort of like a musical block party, if you will, and it's sort of dedicated to having that nostalgic feeling of going downtown and enjoying a bite to eat, listening to some great music, and just remembering, you know, the good times. So everybody kind of enjoy that space, and having the larger venue to do so was very much appreciated last year, so we're asking for it again.
Okay. Any questions, Mike?
Nope, sounds like a good time. Thank you.
Maureen?
I think it's great. I was there for the parade with the floats last year, and I think it's fabulous. I love the work that you people are doing. Thank you.
David?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your sensitivity about getting people out rings so important to me. I just turned 82. And the Surgeon General of the United States, some 6 months ago, you may have been aware, noted isolation as an epidemic in our country, which we are a community, part of the country. Anything that can bring people out and together, as you obviously know, is very, very valuable to us, especially older people. Now, I meet regularly at Danvers McDonald's for coffee in the morning, and I have some special older friends. This morning, one of them was asking me, is the Christmas tree going to really happen? Is we going to have the bonfire again? What you do is really important. So I went right to our town website, which finally I know how to work, and it works pretty well. And I said, yes, you're going to have a tree, and you're going to have a bonfire. Now, I have these beautiful little pieces of paper, which I'm going to take to McDonald's tomorrow morning, so that my constituency there will be reassured that the great work that you're doing will be available to them. It means a lot to a lot of people. So thank you for what you do.
welcome. That's our
Dee?
goal.
Yes, by the way, I'm not sure if you introduced yourselves.
They did.
Jocelyn.
Jocelyn?
David.
David, okay, thank you. Well, thank you for all you do. It's a lot of work to volunteer to do these things, fundraising, planning. And while you were speaking, I counted you talk about community and together 7 or 8 times. That is what it's all about. So the work you do is so important, and kudos for doing it, and I would definitely be in support of this. So thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, besides approving the events, the dates, we need a permit for the bonfire and closing of streets and 2 events to be part of the motion?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Is there a motion?
Make motion, so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Chief, you can give him a permit.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who made the motion and seconded it?
Made the motion.
Maureen?
Yeah. And then who
David?
seconded? David?
I'm sorry, Dan. I'm sorry.
Okay, the board will hear an update from staff on several potential development projects. Mr. Town Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Henry, our Director of Land Use and Community Services in the audience, and making his way to the podium at breakneck speed.
Welcome, Aaron.
Good evening. Wanted to touch base on one development in particular, a development that's actually happening in the city of Beverly on Trask Lane. In the back and forth between the town manager's office and the chair of the select board, I was asked to provide an update on a couple of other developments that are happening. And then in the intervening time, we caught wind of another development happening here in Danvers, or a potential development here in Danvers, so I wanted to touch on that as well. So I'll just start at the top with the Trask Lane / Folly Hill proposal that some folks may have heard about that's happening in the city of Beverly. I did provide a memo for your packet. Hopefully you received that. That was dated September 24th. There's been a few developments since then, but basically right now our staff, our planning office is communicating with the City of Beverly's planning staff on a weekly basis to ensure that we know what they're doing. We've talked about joint.
Could you describe the location of Trask Lane and
Yes.
so that people that may be watching would know the particular area that you're talking about?
Yep. So Trask Lane starts in Danvers off of, I think it's exit 43 on 128. It's a right-hand only coming northbound. We have about 111 Danvers homes off of that exit, but it also does connect their cell signaling on the left. And then if you continue into Beverly on Trask Lane, you end up at I'm going to call it Apple Village. I think it might have a different name in Beverly, but Apple Village. So long story short, we're working with the city's planning office on a weekly basis. We are likely to do joint notifications such that meetings that are happening regarding that development that are regulatory in nature for the city of Beverly, we're going to make sure that they're providing notice to our 111 individuals, and vice versa. When our regulatory boards have a role in that process, we're going to make sure that the Beverly residents are getting notified of our meetings, because there is a piece that involves the town of Danvers. The original subdivision that created Apple Village was done in the early 70s, and the planning board, that piece of land straddled both communities. So our planning board continues to have an active covenant over that proposal development. We are working with our town council office to figure out exactly what authority that covenant gives us. It alludes to us having quite a bit of authority, but we do have to put that in perspective of the subdivision control law. The City of Beverly has come through quite a long process that included litigation, which they lost against the property owner of that parcel. So the development proposed is quite large. I think it's at 460-something units right now. They've walked that down over the years from, I think it was as high at one point as 700. They've walked that down to in the mid-4s. City of Beverly would like to see that number come down probably by half. Unfortunately, there are property rights that have been granted and given, and the developer, the owner of the site, has exercised their rights to preserve that development potential. So we're in kind of a gray area as far as understanding what the authority of the Danvers Planning Board will be in that, but I did think it was worthy enough to bring that to your board's attention as we navigate the next couple of months of public hearings around that development. I know I threw a lot at you there. Happy to take any questions on that before moving to another.
I have questions. Well, thank you, Aaron, for the memo. So I guess my biggest question is, what's in it for Danvers?
Very little.
Right. Okay. And then we talk about impact studies for Beverly. Should an impact study be done for Danvers?
We are working on that. Our recommendation to the planning board, I think the planning board opens the hearing on November 12th on the action. They've requested that we release the covenant. November 12th, and we've warned the applicant, as the city of Beverly also did, we are looking to have the traffic analysis that accompanied that development proposal peer reviewed. So we basically bring in a third-party traffic engineer to review their proposal to see if the offered mitigation is acceptable. The reason we're doing that is our covenant specifically mentions the planning board having some authority to talk about traffic impacts should future development be proposed. So we're trying to figure out exactly how much authority that does give us, but it's clear that it's focusing on traffic and following the city of Beverly. Well, like the city of Beverly staff, we're concerned about the traffic impact coming in and out only through Trask Lane.
Okay, so that's good. And then we're concerned about that, but the utilities too, right? We have to be concerned about the utilities like the water and the electric and everything.
Should we
too.
get down
the
further,
road.
those
Yep.
and response
And then the
times are all
storm
gonna be an
management,
issue.
how's that going to be handled? I mean, I know this is preliminary, but all these are concerns, and is the entire property being developed in Beverly? You know what I'm saying? You talked about the access road, like, so I'm trying to understand it. If they need Danvers property for the access, right?
At the moment, they are just talking about enhancing Trask Lane. So I'm not sure, I wouldn't necessarily categorize it as a full rebuild, but they're looking at significant infrastructure investment in Trask Lane. They feel that the developer feels that that addresses the emergency access issues that could arise there.
And even if they had to switch it where they have an emergency access road, what they say through Beverly, that's the emergency access, but why,
There are
maybe they could
unimproved
widen
ways.
it, not have as another lot or something. I mean, I know what to come, right? We're looking into it, as Bill Bradstreet would say, all right?
We're working
You've been
on it.
quiet tonight. What's going on with you? Yeah. All right.
So we're gonna, again, things will happen over the next month or so, and hopefully we can stay up on it, but we wanted to bring that to your attention because we know that was a rather large proposal that kind of happened quietly on page 11 of the paper in late July. So we figured that was worth a little bit more attention here in town.
Thank you. Thank you.
What's up?
Yep.
D, any questions?
Yes, I had similar questions to what Select Board Member Maureen had, but what leverage do we have, or is there anything expected from this board, or this was more FYI?
FYI, the planning board, as I said, the planning board has a regulatory role in this process as part of the original subdivision, but we need to understand in more depth what authority that covenant is actually giving the town.
Okay.
The subdivision control law is kind of finicky in that it's a very property rights centric process. So again, that our rights to evaluate the traffic impacts will likely be framed by the rights that the subdivision control law gives property owners through that process. And again, the city of Beverly lost in court already on this case. So we have, all expectations are we have a litigious owner, and we want to make sure that we understand our rights as we go into that process.
Okay. Can anything happen on Trask Lane without the planning board approval?
We do not believe so. Staff does not believe so.
So at least we have that as a leverage if they want to do anything there, our belief is that they will have to come and get that
Yes,
approved to
and
us.
they filed, and we have them scheduled on November 12th, I think is the date. I'm looking at Chairman George. November 12th, I think, is the date. It hasn't made it to you yet, but I think we've scheduled it for November 12th,
Okay.
if that's a Tuesday.
Can they move forward with the project regardless of their access to Trask Lane, or the two are?
I missed the beginning, I'm sorry.
Can they move forward with the project if we don't? Okay.
No, they cannot.
Thank you.
They also triggered the MEPA process, which is a state process, so
Yeah, I
that
saw
the
that.
state's also reviewing it, slightly different lens that they have, but, so there'll be a lot of review before anything happens.
Okay. Thank you for the information.
Mike, any questions?
No, not at this time. We'll just wait to see what happens. here.
David?
Thank you.
No questions, Mr. Chairman. I've always been afraid of what was going to happen eventually with that land and the impact on traffic. Is Trask Lane the one that's just next to the old, what was the restaurant?
King's Grant.
King's Grant?
I used to work there.
That's the
Yep.
adjacent road?
Yep, you just keep going.
Oh, boy.
Yep.
No, that's my only comment. Oh, boy.
Thank you, Aaron. Next subject.
This one was not on the list that I was asked to touch on, but I did, and again, I have nothing official on this, but I just wanted to bring up that several weeks ago, we got inundated the morning after a community meeting at St. Mary's about a potential project at St. Mary's on Otis Street. I did have reason to connect today with someone from Bishop Fenwick. I warned them that we were going to be bringing this up. I have nothing official, but I do believe that we are likely to see a development proposal on Otis Street, a small subdivision, as the owner looks to divide that property. But we have no official contact from anybody, but we did have a number of residents reach out to us the following day.
Condos or single families? Both?
Well,
So, Aaron, I was contacted today and asked if that's on the agenda. I said no.
I spoke to him after you. We clarified it. I apologize. Somehow
I've got to
he
go
caught.
back to that developer or real estate agent, but we're not taking any action tonight, correct?
No, nothing. They've not even filed with us
Okay.
or reached out to us in any informal way. That's just residents have alerted us that this is happening, and I think again, in eyes wide open, probably happening in the coming months.
Thank you. Next subject.
Maple Square. Chairman Bennett asked for an update on Maple Square. Project remains on target for shell completion in the first quarter of 2025. Most people will notice, I think all the windows are in, siding is going up. The project is almost weather tight. Should the work continue on its current trajectory, occupancy permits for the residential units, of which there are 145 units, would probably be issued shortly thereafter. So we're looking at potentially as early as March, but maybe April's a more realistic timeframe for starting to see the residential units receiving certificate of occupancies. The tenant fit-outs for the first floor commercial space will probably occur a little after that, given that they need to sign leases. Those tenants will need to do the fit-out. So we're probably looking at later in 2025 for occupancy of the first floor. Beyond that, we're working with them. We actually just had a conversation with them, it must have been today or it was late last week, about the Freight House. And so they're also starting to do work on the Freight House. Those are design plans at the moment. And they have, by agreement with staff, that project or that piece of it should be complete by calendar year 2025. So in theory, a year from now, we should be looking at full occupancy and almost project completion.
The end of 25.
The end of 25.
Thank you.
17 Elm. As you noticed, demo is complete. Construction should begin within a couple of weeks. They may need to do some logistical revisiting with the select board for scaffolding. I noticed. I'm not quite
It's
sure.
still up today.
It was still
Today
up.
was
I think
the-
it was supposed to come down.
Today was the last day.
Yeah, today it was supposed to come down,
They
and
were
then I
still
think they're going to
cleaning up.
return with, it's a different contractor doing demo from construction, so I think the new contractor is going to come in to get ascertain permission to cover the sidewalk during construction, but that should happen in the next couple of weeks. Next development I was asked to discuss was Danvers Hardware, which is 5563 Maple Street, 10 School Street, and 6 Pillsbury Ave. The owner returned to the planning board in September to incorporate the corner property, that's 55 Maple Street, into the previously approved plans. The revised project comprises 30 units, that's 22 above Danvers Hardware and the corner lot, and there'll be 8 units in the 10 School Street building, which is the big white building, kind of an older barn structure.
Does that building get demolished similar to
No.
Elm Street?
No, the white building stays. And of the 30, 5 affordables.
5 are affordable?
5 are affordable.
And they're not done with their permitting?
I believe they're done with their permitting. I think they went through the planning board. I think they've ascertained all permitting. Special permit and site plan were issued second meeting in September, I believe. Final update, the downtown project. This year's work was replacing of the street lighting and an installation of an at-grade crossing at the rail trail at the bike shop. The lighting replacement phase is nearly complete. I'm sorry, not the whole phase. The light foundations for the light poles should be complete by now. As of end of last week, they were all in but 4. I'm assuming they've made some progress over the last couple of days on that. Street lights are getting shipped in another week and should be arriving about a week or 2 later. So again, we should see those going in by mid-November. The rail trail crossing we've started that process. Different trades are coming in now, so that should be complete by the end of next week. And then the conduits conduits to connect the lighting foundation should be starting this week as well. And again, hopefully the whole thing this phase of the project should be wrapped up by mid-November.
Just a comment, it's a pretty messy project.
Yeah, lots of disruption. Yep. So that was what I was asked to cover.
Anything else on your agenda that we should be aware of?
Nothing else, sir.
Nothing else, okay.
I'll keep it.
Thank you. Any questions,
I'll limit it
member
to
of the
that.
board? David, any questions for Aaron? No? Mike?
No, thank you.
Maureen?
No, it's a lot, and it's good that we want, I don't know if I'm so happy about all the apartments going downtown, but, the downtown definitely needs a facelift.
Yep.
And Steve and I've talked about that. Drive through Melrose, very pretty, a lot of businesses. That's what we want to attract businesses, but that's it. Thank you.
Dee?
Thank you for the update. I'm just curious, how do we'll have a lot of spaces for businesses. Do we have preferences in the type of business we want to attract, and are we doing things to attract those type of businesses, or is there anything that can be done? I'm not sure.
At a 30,000-foot level, any allowed use that we allow is, in theory, we've gone on record saying, hey, property owners, these are uses that we want you to do downtown. Obviously, part of the job of the planning board and the staff is to review those uses periodically to ensure that what we're allowing property owners to do reflects what we wish. And for the most part, I think we do that. You can find the edges, so we could look at that. We're doing that in other zoning districts moving forward. Highway Corridor, 114, et cetera. Endicott Street is another one where we're doing that. I think downtown, because of the work we've done with the planning board over the last couple of years, I think we're a little closer to the mark there. The bigger problem is convincing landlords and property owners to do, people call us all the time, we want a Burger King downtown. Well, I can't call Mr. King and ask him to put a Burger King downtown. It's still the owner's prerogative to find a tenant. That said, we generally do try to, When we hear about leads, we connect them to
Okay.
people. We get businesses that call us, say we're looking for a space. We try to connect them, and vice versa. We get business owners that say, I'm looking for so-and-so. So we do try to play matchmaker, but unfortunately, that's not our forte. We try to refer them to an appropriate real estate person. We have several commercial brokers in town that have a better expertise in playing that matchmaker role, but we certainly do try to do it when we have an obvious one staring at us.
Okay, thank you.
All set?
All set.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, can I ask your indulgence for us to take a 5-minute recess before you go?
Certainly.
Thank you. 5-minute recess, thank you. 5th state election. Madam Clerk.
Thank you. As we all know, there's an election on November 5th, if you don't already know. Yeah. So early voting is going to take place in this room starting on Saturday, October 19th, from 10 to 4. This is, I've got this schedule posted online, and then I also brought extra copies over there if anybody wants one. So if you are interested in coming to in-person early voting, it's the next 2 weeks, starting on October 19th. You can see the schedule also on the website. And then when you're figuring out what you're going to do, you also have, there are 5 ballot questions on the ballot. So I've got extra red books here. The red books are also online. You want to take some time before you get to the polls to look through, to decide what you want to do with those questions. And then as of today, we have mailed out 5,963 ballots. We have 1,328 returned. And they're continuing to come in and go out and come in and come in. So does anybody have any questions?
Board members, any questions for Kathy?
Do you feel like you're plenty staffed up for all this extra work?
I think at this point, we are in really good shape. I do have some poll workers that come in. I have a couple of senior workers. I have a college intern that comes in and does a couple of hours. And we always have the option to bring in extra poll workers if we need them. So what our plan is, so we've scheduled four people to work early voting. If we don't need all 4 people in the room doing early voting, we'll take those folks and help them file the ballots, signature check, that kind of thing over the weekend, over the Saturday when we're here. And I want to acknowledge we have Wally, the registrar, is in the room.
Wally, the registrar. Welcome.
Well, I know. And that's all I have on that at this point. By the next meeting, we'll be done for a while.
And count everything in 2 days?
I'm going to have everything counted the day after.
Good for you. Thank you. Appreciate it, Kathy.
Yep.
The chair will update the public on the status of the town manager's search. The manager announced that he was a finalist for town manager in Lexington back in September. At that time, to prepare for his assumed departure, he was asked to put out a request for proposal, RFP, for a recruitment firm. That was done on September 26, and the proposals are due 10/17. Now that Steve has submitted his official resignation letter on 10/9, the process can begin. I am asking Select Board Member Bean to join me on a subcommittee to review the proposals along with our Finance Director. Mr. Bean, will you join us? Thank you. Thank you. We will interview these folks and bring back a recommendation to the board. This company will recruit candidates, as was done in Lexington, for a committee to review in private, also as was done in Lexington. I am asking Select Board Member Bernard to co-chair that committee with me. Maureen, will you
Yes.
co-chair?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. After that, we get going, we'll announce the members of that committee at a later date. The interviews will hopefully take place in January or February. And in March, we hope to bring a list of finalists to the board for public interviews, also as was done in Lexington. If all goes according to plan, hopefully we can negotiate a contract and have it signed late March or early April for a new town manager. Other details certainly will be forthcoming after we have a recruitment firm in place. Unanimously, this board has chosen Rodney Conley to be our interim town manager. The town manager, according to Section 26 of the Town Manager Act, shall be the chief fiscal officer of the town, and we feel that Rodney has the talents and the ability to be the fiscal officer for the town of Danvers. We will offer him a contract that will run for 6 months with a 15% stipend added to his regular pay on his regular paychecks. That's where we're at now, and hopefully we can get the recruitment firm up and running and start requesting for applications for a town manager. Thank you. The town manager will report to the board on various items of interest. Mr. Manager, this is your last report to us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any spectacular fireworks for you. I am really, really pleased that we were able to share the press release with your packets on Friday, announcing the completion of a project that really dates back 30 years, and that's the protection of the Rebecca Nurse homestead. I have updated the board at times over the years on the status of that, and it really all came together in the last couple of months. Mr. Henry left, but he and his staff were involved deeply in that, as was town council, working with the alarm list company, the state, and Historic New England, which also had an interest in that property. But this is something that goes back as far back as the open space plans in Danvers go. I'm starting with that because that's something that was sort of in the works behind the scenes for many, many years. And I think part of what has been an absolute pleasure for me serving as the town manager here for the past 10 years has been working with talented staff and talented boards that have the vision and the foresight to identify projects like this as being important. The town meeting put the funds in place 25 years ago so that when the opportunity was right, the town will be able to act. And so what I really want to say is thank you and express my gratitude. Serving as the Danvers town manager for the past 10 years has been the honor of my career. I've made more than my fair share of mistakes. And as we heard at the beginning of the night, not everybody is going to be sad to see me leave Danvers, and that's expected. I mean, when you work in a place for 10 years, this can be a very lonely job, but it's also an incredibly rewarding job. So I want to thank this board and the boards that came before it for giving me the opportunity to serve in this role. I'm not going to bother running through the list of things that I'm proud that staff was able to accomplish over the past 10 years. The annual report will come out later for that. But really, I just want to say thank you. And I am leaving with mixed emotions. It is bittersweet. My kids grew up here. We chose to make this our home 10 years ago. And we're not going anywhere anytime soon. I'm going to have to get used to commuting again for the first time in a long time. But we have enjoyed we've enjoyed almost every minute of being here. But 99.9% ain't bad. So I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome. That's it, Steve?
That's it.
Thank you very much. Consent calendar? Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Motion to approve the consent calendar as appeared.
Is there a second?
May I ask a question
Yes,
about
you
that,
may.
Mr. So do we meet on the 7th and the 12th, like back-to-back in November?
The 7th because of the election, and the 12th, because probably the next week is close to Thanksgiving, or,
So
Madam Clerk?
Oh, it's the 7th and the 19th.
it's the 19th.
Yep, it's the 19th.
Thank you. We'll change that to the 19th. Thanks, Dee.
Can I also
Yep.
suggest you discuss the start time for those meetings? I know that there was, at the meeting you were not at, there was discussion about potentially moving the start time back. There was some interest in the board. I don't know whether you want to address that now.
Well, probably now, because if we approve the consent calendar, then it's 6 o'clock.
Well,
That
that's
was,
not really part of the consent calendar. That's just notes and
Oh, no,
reminders.
Okay. So let's approve the consent calendar first, please.
You had Maureen and David.
Well, the consent calendar says, well, I had, that was my second question. So the first one was the date. So now it's the 19th, but it also has the time.
Dee, can we approve the consent calendar, and we'll discuss that?
Those are reminders, Dee.
Oh, that's not
part of the consent calendar.
Oh,
No,
I'm
those are
sorry.
just notes that Ann puts at the bottom for like looking forward. So those aren't part of the consent calendar. The consent calendar ends with 2025 banners. That's the last item on the consent calendar. And then the select board notes and reminders are just different. That's an FYI for you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Well, I have a question on the consent calendar, though.
Yes.
Yes?
The 2024 common victualler, Wendy's.
Yes.
What is that?
Wendy's, any restaurant that prepares and serves food on premises has to obtain a common victualer's license, which is a license to sell food on premise. So generally, so at this point in the year, I have prepared my 2025 license renewals for you, for the board. Wendy's has taken them a little bit longer to pay their 2024 fee. So Wendy's is still paying 2024 fee when really they were due some time ago.
Okay,
So
so
we'll-
that's what I wanted to check, because it appeared to me that it should have been done by December 31st of each year.
In a perfect world,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
So what will happen now is my licenses for common victualler, miscellaneous, entertainment, liquor licenses will be going out. So you will be finding on the new consent calendars, sometimes they'll be much longer than this at the beginning of the year when the bulk of the licensing comes back. And then what happens is they come back, they trickle through, then I kind of go through my spreadsheet to see who hasn't paid yet. And come to find out, Wendy's.
Wendy's.
So there
Thank
may
you
be
for
another couple of them, but what happens is when I send out my renewals for 25, I add that on and
Okay.
say, hello, where's
So
my?
we'll see them again in 25.
You'll see everybody
That
again in
qualifies.
25, and
Okay.
you'll see Wendy's as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I second the approval.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
Thank you.
Sorry.
That's okay.
All right, now, Dee, did you have other questions on the reminders?
Yes, so the first one was the date, and the second one was the start time of the meeting. And I know this has been discussed in the past, even prior to me being on the board. I think 6 o'clock is a little early for those of us who kind of work during the day or have to pick up kids from school.
So rather than go into depth, we had the understanding 6:30 was the start time. The summer, we go to 6, which we did in August. And nobody changed the start time back to 6:30 last month. So basically, before the summer, we were meeting at 6:30.
Okay, so we should be meeting at 6:30, is that what I'm hearing?
If that's the consensus of the board.
I don't know what the other board members would prefer. I would prefer 7. Most committees and board meet
No,
at
let
7.
some, most, but not all.
Yeah,
Preservation's at 5, Housing Trust is at 6:30, and there's no hard and fast rule. I'm not in favor of meeting at 7. If we did right now, it would be 8:45, where we are in this
What
meeting.
about 6:30?
if that's the consensus of the board, I will go with 6:30. 7 will be my preference because, I mean, unless you retire,
See, you're younger.
it's
What
really
time?
hard to, it's really hard to make it here at 6 or 6:30.
Aaron isn't here, but there's a statistic that says 80% of the people that work in Danvers are within a half an hour or an hour away from Danvers. Very few people have a long commute.
He's probably never gone down Route 1.
Mike, you have a comment?
6:30 is fine. Dee, show up when you can.
Yeah, David?
I will be here. I will make the proper arrangement to be here. It's more convenient, but I will support whatever the board.
David?
I prefer 7 because that's what we did for 50 years, but I also want to be consistent with the rest of the board. 6:30 is fine with me.
Clerk, would you instruct Ann to put 6:30 on the calendar, please?
I will, yes.
Thank you.
6:30 is the new start time.
Well, it was the old start time. We
Oh,
just
the new
back to-
old start time.
Right, we
The
just
new
get
old
back
one.
to
Okay.
Thank you for bringing that up, Dee.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Correspondence, new business, public business. I'd like to ask the board if they're willing to, at our meeting on November 7th, start to discuss Chapter 12 and 294. Chapter 294, the Town Manager Act, and Chapter 12, the Town Manager Act, just to give some direction to the Town Manager Act Committee. They're right now in the process of reviewing the Town Meeting Act. But I think most of the things we'll look at would be the Town Manager Act. We can do that on the 7th, and I'm wondering if we have a regular meeting, end it, and then have a workshop. Madam Clerk, what do you think of that idea?
I think you could do that if you wanted to.
Right, not to, just to have a
Open to the
regular meeting.
public? At that point, they could stay if they wanted to?
They can, it's not an open meeting, it's a workshop,
Okay.
okay? For us to come up with any coherent thoughts to pass on to the Town Manager Act Committee for them to consider. They're in the process of gathering information, evidence, if you will, at this point in time. I will say I did watch their last two meetings Sunday while it was raining, and to see where they're at. Some good questions, and they're moving right along. So but maybe on the 7th, we can have some time. Of course, now we're going to start at 6:30, so it will be a longer night.
I'm sorry.
Is that agreeable?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll have a workshop, which we can invite the Town Manager Act Committee of any, if they have interests. But it'll be mostly this board discussing our thoughts.
You want Sally for sure, or?
Well, invite Sally,
Invite.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Yep.
And anyone else that's on that committee as well. Only if they wish. Thank you. I'll have other comments later. Maureen, any new business?
No, I just really am disgusted on what happened.
Maureen, would you speak up?
I'm sorry, I said David, yes. I am just really disgusted on what happened to Chris Ducky, as we all know him. And I'm looking forward to what the chief of police has to say, and I like select board members being a former police officer, what he has to say too. I respect that, because he's done it. He knows the kids, and I'm just really sad. I almost cried. I had tears. If anybody saw me, I was wiping my eyes. That poor young man and his family. This should not happen anywhere. Danvers, the stories that everybody's saying with these kids, I haven't really experienced any of that, but my heart goes out to everybody, and I hope that we as a board and the police department deal with this, Dan. Thank you.
Thank you. Dee, anything to offer?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it was sad. But I do believe that I don't think we can police our way out of this. It's going to take all of us as a community coming together, parents, teachers, board, committees, police. It's going to be all of us coming together to help our kids. Some of know right from wrong. Again, there's a difference between being a kid and being a criminal, and we just have to make it very, very clear and come together as a community. I had another question, Mr. Chairman, about the new business and the way when we have new businesses at the beginning of the meeting, if a resident has a concern because it wasn't on the agenda, we don't necessarily have to discuss it.
They bring forth to us concerns or thoughts they have. Sometimes we comment. Most of the time, we have to take it under advisement. When it's new to us, we may need the manager or somebody else to respond. It really depends on what it is, but we can't make a judgmental call on something that's not on the agenda.
Exactly. So do we take note of that? And, I mean, obviously, if there's a tree that needs to be cut, staff will handle that. But do we come back at the following meeting to address the concern, or how does the resident get the information that their concern was addressed?
Depends on the issue. There's no hard and fast rule. Many times we've discussed it amongst ourselves at this juncture and maybe have a resolution. If we need information, we'll gather that information. So sometimes we can answer the question at the end when we're discussing new business at this time. But it really depends on what the subject matter is. And I like it when somebody gives me a heads up that they're going to speak under new business, not that Bill has to, but sometimes it gives me a chance to prepare.
Okay. So when they speak, we take it under advisement, it means we are actually taking care of it, and then we report back?
We don't have to respond to everything they ask. We don't have to respond to. It depends on what the subject matter is and what we feel. It's really, there's no written guidelines on that subject that I can point you to.
Yeah, I just want to understand, I'm sorry for
No, that's
asking
okay.
how, I want to understand as a new select board member, if someone raised a concern, we can't discuss anything after this meeting, because that would be a violation of the open meeting
Well,
law.
we can discuss it at this particular time and decide what direction we want to go in.
So at some point during the meeting, we can decide to...
At this point in time, right. After all the other agenda items are taken care of.
Okay, we can talk about what
Yes.
was raised and
Yes.
decide which way we want to go.
Yes.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
No, that's all.
All right, Mike?
Three things, if I can, I'll be quick. Is there any possibility of getting our packets even a couple days earlier? I know things are being put together, maybe fast and furious, but just an ask. You don't have to answer.
Well, let me just walk through the process. The town clerk gets requests from somebody to be on the agenda because they need a license or they need something. She'll put it on the agenda. The town manager's secretary will add things to the agenda. The manager and I sit down sometime the week prior to talk about, review the agenda. You may want something on the agenda, you'll request it through me to put it on the agenda. So it has to be posted late Thursday. That's where we get it Friday. Okay?
Yeah.
By law, it's 48 hours prior to. Sometimes they're not ready on Wednesday. Sometimes they are. There's always a last minute something.
Okay.
Kathy, anything you want to add to that?
No, I was just getting a few items. So this week, the agenda had to get posted early because we had the meeting on holiday Monday, so it had to get posted a day early. So the timeline kind of gets crunched a little.
Yeah.
So the packets the last thing was going in the packet Friday morning, right before I brought them up to DPW to have them delivered.
Okay.
So it's hard. And sometimes there was the document there from Jen that didn't make it into the packet. So there are times when you get here, you'll have an item or two that, didn't make it to the packet that might be important for the meeting.
Okay.
So it's kind of hard. I will talk to Ann about that, but it's kind of a combination of waiting for documents from other staff. The town manager may have something to add, and he, may not have it ready or prepared that far ahead.
Thank you.
Okay.
I apologize.
No, don't apologize. I have to ask, right?
Yep. Two other items?
Yes, real quick, I was hoping that we could, I know the town manager is busy this week, but, or the interim, if we could put a policy together to deal with that Colarusso way there, so that we don't have to deal with it the way it was dealt with before. This way, builder, developer would know, we would know the expectations of a piece of property that the town has an interest in that maybe a developer's going to use as far as a cost or whatnot, if we have a regular policy in place for that. Just to,
It's really planning department
Yeah.
that really should have ironed that all out before it got to us.
Yeah.
But because it was right away, that's our purview. But planning should have had some negotiation ahead of time. And they did, and passed on it, and it got changed. The applicant came back 4 years later after we made a decision and wanted to change things.
I just didn't know if there's anything that would narrow the field a little bit, that the town might have.
That was
in
an
place.
unusual one, because they
Yeah.
came back a second time requesting something.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I could,
Yes, please.
I don't speak land use nearly as fluently as Judge Mills, but I think one of the points.
Steve, could you speak?
I was complimenting your vast knowledge of land use law, Mr. Mills.
He was,
What I was going to say is I think the point Mr. Bean raises is a good one. The There was a comment made earlier that requesting compensation for a land interest was somehow a bribe or extortion, and I just want to assure folks watching that is not the case. It is commonplace in municipal law and land use when someone is interested in a piece of property that a town or city owns, they're expected to compensate the town or city for that interest. The logic in what you're describing and having a policy is that if the planning board is aware up front that the select board wants to know that a market assessment is done, you could have an appraiser do a pretty quick analysis to determine the value of a buildable lot before and after the town cedes interest in a property. What Mr. Mills was alluding to at the last meeting is that the value of that property that the select board relinquished was far in excess of the $5,000 to $7,000 that the town received. But a policy certainly would make that clear up front for builders and for the planning board. So that's something I think Mr. Henry would be open to taking a look at.
May I speak to that, Mr. Chairman? The first compliment that's why I wanted the manager to speak up. Policy is totally unnecessary. What I do as a select board member is to follow the law. What I do as a select board member is to watch for the interest of the town of Danvers taxpayers, to give away nothing, to be fair, and to be decent and honorable. What I spoke to at the last meeting was that the town should be compensated for something of value that the town is giving away. And so the suggestion tonight that it was some kind of extortion or something else was not only nonsensical, it was stupid, it was insulting, and it's contrary to law. So I don't think any policy is necessary. Simply follow the law. That's what I've been doing for 56 years. Thank you.
Mike, anything else?
The last thing is it okay if I email you, all of you, the proposal I had for the trying to assist the police in this endeavor? Some thoughts, and maybe it'll spring some more ideas on everybody here, just to see how we can help them in any way possible.
No, I think you voiced tonight, and you can voice it again, but an email to all of us on something we may vote on would not be
Okay.
Wise.
Okay.
But isn't it just discussion?
Can I?
Yep, go ahead.
In one of the conversations I had with the chief today, he did mention that through DTAC you had shared information and there was a lot of good ideas in there. Part of what they're looking at right now is sort of vetting those through state and local law and the policies and procedures. But I think they would, my understanding is the chief will be coming back to DTAC and then probably through DTAC to this board to share some of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. David?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to comment with respect to the abuse that was given to the town manager tonight and my own view that my vote to appoint Mr. Bartha as the town manager some, 10 years or 12 years ago was the most significant vote of my brief career in town government for more than 50 years. And I will always be proud of that, and I thank you, Steve, for taking our appointment and doing a superb job. You've heard me bellyache about following the law, and I have for my entire career. And I watch other people in town government, especially in Danvers, to see that they are following the law. Bartha has never once, and I've been pretty closely watching him and the board members and other people in town about following the law. Bartha has never once, to my knowledge, and I've been careful, violated the law and has followed it consistently. And in addition to that, Mr. Bartha has become a moral compass for this town. When he came to be manager, the interest that he showed in the Human Rights and Inclusion Commission, including the appointment of Dee as the chair, brought a whole new life to that board, doing wonderful things for attitudes in this town. People have heard before some of my story. You now all know that I'm 82 and had my birthday last week. And most of you know that I lived as a closeted gay man for 50 years in this town, and that I now have a rainbow flag on the front of my house across the street. and it's one of 4 rainbow flags in the entire town. Isn't that a wonderful statement of welcome to lesbian and gay people? Well, it isn't, but it's what we have, and what we have is so far better than what it was when Steve Bartha came to be manager, and he and the other members of his staff, the town fire department put up a rainbow flag, the police department put up a rainbow flag. That's the particular welcome that I feel most personally, but it's not the only welcome. And everybody in Danvers is better off for having 2 moral compasses at the end of this board. Mr. Bartha is leaving, and Dee, fortunately, is staying. And I applaud you, Steve, for doing a great job. I will miss you personally and professionally, and thank you for everything that you have done for me personally and for the other 26,000 people in this town that I attempt to serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. My last few comments. I attended the Danvers Cares meeting last Monday. They changed their time to 2:30. Maureen, their next one is December 9th, 2:30?
I have that in.
Good,
Yeah,
okay,
she
good.
let me know.
I did go just to be sure they knew you were going to represent
Yeah.
the board
Yeah.
and the liaison, so
Thank
thank you for that. I also learned today with this fancy piece of literature, We Are the Watershed, the Ipswich Watershed Community has a new executive director as of last June, Erin Bonnie Casey. I look forward to meeting her at some time. Interesting piece about what they're doing on the Ipswich River in the different communities. And a lot of kids are involved in educational pieces. I found that interesting. And with that, if you see a veteran, please thank the veteran for their service. And with that, the meeting is adjourned. Good night, Danvers.
Thank you, Steve.